Okay, everyone, welcome. Hello, it's me. Let's see here. Can I switch between stuff? But anyway, I'm so glad to be here. But let's jump into it. Can you switch to my slides here? Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor, and I'm humbled to just be chit-chatting with all of you here today. But whatever. Let's get into how's this going to work. I'm keeping an eye on the chat on YouTube. So if anyone has any questions or whatever, please let me know. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to save some time at the end for questions, but for sure, it does not interrupt my flow at all to jump in and just ask me stuff. Okay, great. So my name's Joe. I work for a little company called MongoDB. I hope you've heard of that. I hope, but I'm a developer advocate and software engineer. I primarily work with Node and JavaScript, as Stephen mentioned. If you want to get a hold of me, for sure, hit me up on Twitter. It's the best way to get a hold of me. I make funny videos on TikTok, and actually I'm streaming weekly now, every Friday, on the MongoDB Twitch channel. If you look in the upper right-hand corner of my slide deck, you see that little QR code. You can scan that, but that will take you to a website with all the links on that I'm going to be discussing here. Code, slides, video, whatever. All that's there. So if you see that QR code, just know that's there. Otherwise, that bit.ly link. Last thing I need to mention here, too, if I say anything controversial or weird or totally out of step here, just know it's my opinion, not the opinion of my employer. Please don't fire me. I really like my job. So, all right, that's it. Let's jump in. So today, what I want to do with all y'all is, first of all, I want to discuss just basics of intro to serverless. I'm assuming no knowledge here. And then I want to give a guided serverless demo. So I built a little React app using serverless tech, and I want to show y'all. And then lastly, this is the one that I like to just show in the future. So like 3 years from now, you can come back and show me this clip about all of the wild future predictions I make. One of my favorite hobbies is watching or reading incorrect future predictions from famous people in tech, like Bill Gates suggesting that you don't need more than 60 megabytes of memory. You know what I mean? That's going to be me. That's what I'm going to be doing here. They're educated guesses. They're not totally just random guesses, but we'll just kind of jump in the future a little bit. Okay, great. This just gets started. Introduction to serverless. So what is serverless? Well, great question. Serverless basically allows you to build applications super quickly, and you don't have to worry about setting up infrastructure, right? And infrastructure is abstracted away from you, so you don't have to worry about it. Kelsey Hightower, one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter, he says, I remember the days when I built my own gaming PCs. Eventually I just sold it and bought an Xbox. I just wanted to play games, not gaming rings. Serverless is just like that, right? So like I do have a gaming PC I built, and just like technology, right? Like building our own infrastructure from scratch, like our own Kubernetes and Docker clusters that self-heal at scale, like we need to build those still. But for 99% of projects, worrying about the infrastructure is kind of a pain. And personally, as a developer, deploying and managing infrastructure long-term is the thing I enjoy the least. I just like building the business logic. I want to get it out there fast. And I just want to I want people to start using it, right? So basically what you're doing is allowing someone else to manage all of the infrastructure for you, which is great. I'm personally a huge fan of that. Okay, great. So you might be thinking to yourself, Joe, serverless, what the heck? There's servers involved here. There's computers. Actually, there might be a server back there. Well, you are correct, but I'm just going to shut it down now. We get it. It's like serverless isn't like super accurate. It's a trendy, jargony word, but like whatever, right? Servers do have servers, or serverless does have servers. Okay, that's okay. It's a funny joke, but we're just going to call it serverless because that's what everyone else calls it. Okay, so you might be asking yourself, hey, Joe, I've heard about the serverless thing. I heard about this thing. What's the big deal about it? Why is it so popular? Why is everyone talking about it? Why am I here? Well, I'm glad you asked because, first of all, you don't have to worry about infrastructure whatsoever. I don't need to deploy new Docker clusters or new Node apps when I'm at capacity, or I don't need to scale down when I'm not using it, right? I just deploy my apps and someone else manages all that scaling for me automatically. I don't have to provision new clusters or apps or servers. I don't have to patch anything. I don't have to run updates on any of my stuff. I don't have to worry about security. Well, you have to worry about security, but you know what I mean? Like at like a hardware level, right? Your application, you still have to worry about security, but you know what I'm saying? No capacity planning. So a lot of times, like I worked for a large e-commerce company, and for Black Friday, we had to make sure we had our servers would be to be able to scale to capacity to handle the Black Friday traffic. You don't have to do that with serverless. If you need more, it automatically provisions more work or like more stuff for you, more hardware behind the scenes. No scaling, and studies have found that serverless tech has increased delivery speed by 77%. So it makes building, deploying, and scaling your applications much faster. If you ask me, that's great. It makes me feel like this. It makes me feel pretty dang good. Makes me feel pretty good. So sounds great. That's awesome. I don't have to worry about anything. What's the catch, Joe? Right? I think with any new tech, the point is you need to figure out the pros and cons and to figure out whether that tool is the right job for you. So there's a lot of great things about it, but there is some catches. Let's dig into those real fast. So what's the catch? First of all, servers need to be warmed up. So for example, since you're not doing capacity or scaling planning for your application might not know right away that it needs to scale up. So, and it takes time to turn on a new server if it needs to scale up, do stuff behind the scenes for you, right? So they may need to be warmed up. There is techniques for warming them up. Like this is called like you kit your servers or like before you think you're going to need additional traffic to get them ready, and then they could be scaled up seamlessly so users don't experience any issues. State must be external. So serverless is also stateless because these different server instances are being spun up and spun down depending on when and how you use them. So that means that they're not maintaining state. And that's when something like a database might come in handy, like MongoDB. Interesting. But state must be external. And DevOps is still a thing. You still have to deploy your code to a serverless cloud. Like it doesn't magically just go from VS Code to serverless. You still have to deploy it. You're not managing the infrastructure once it gets there, but you still have to get it there. So if anyone's hoping that DevOps is not a thing anymore, I'm so sorry. And nothing wrong with DevOps. It's great. It's just really confusing and it's huge, and it's just huge, right? So DevOps is still a thing. Okay, so we just talked about basically what it is, some of the great things about it, and some of the cons, right? What are some of the downsides of using it? Cool. Let's see here. I gotta just move this window down a little bit. Okay. When should you be considering going serverless, right? It should be if you have an application and you want to decide, like, I want to do a Jamstack, or I'm going to deploy this on a serverless backend, or I'm going to build my own server farm, or I need a Kubernetes cluster. Cool. These are all great things to bring up. And there are certain application types that are better suited for a serverless backend. So if you only need something I forgot to mention, another pro is you only pay for what you need. So with a serverless instance, you're making calls to a backend, basically an API call from your front end, and you are only paying for those calls that you make. So a lot of times the servers, they just sit there idling. 90% of the time, they're just sitting there idling, doing nothing, right? So you're paying for all that uptime when it's not actually doing anything. With serverless, it's more efficient, and you're only paying for what's being used by your users, which actually ends up being massive cost benefits for you or your company or whatever. It's really cheap. That's all I'm saying. So let's say you have a static front end and you only need occasional hits on your front end. Like maybe you have like just some light data you're showing on the front, even heavy data, but like it's just serverless is amazing for static front ends, which is huge for React. I'm going to be honest with all y'all here. 90% of my applications at this point are static React front ends, and then I have a serverless backend, and I'm usually using GraphQL on top of that as well. Right? So this is like my go-to. This is like my go-to app, like with tech stack. Oh, I forget the word sometimes. So static front ends, great use case for it. If you have variable traffic levels, so because it scales so well, you have to worry about provisioning it all. Let's say, like for example, you are designing a game app that's going to be like a HQ trivia or something like that, right? Like at 6:00 p.m. every day, 3 trillion people come to your app, and the rest of the time there's no one on it, right? Like that would be a excellent use case for serverless, because you're only paying for that time when it's being massively used, and the rest of the uptime you don't have to pay for it all. You'd see massive benefits. If you're seeing sustained traffic all the time, like you're a Google or Facebook, you're probably going to see negligible benefits from that. But variable costs, you're going to definitely see it. Let's say you just want a occasional increased compute power on your current maybe backend that you're saving. Maybe it's even hardware that you're managing, right? It's a great way to like extend your current system without provisioning additional stuff. So you can just like occasionally we want to just, if we go over the capacity of my data center, great. We'll just extra traffic and go to my serverless backend. Okay, is that it? Oh, I got one. And anything you want to make cheaper. Again, I've only seen apps get cheaper from using a serverless backend, which is pretty nice. Okay. Yes. So there's a ton of serverless providers out there. Pretty much every like cloud as a service, software as a service platform, Firebase and Azure and Lambda functions with AWS. There's a ton of them. Which one? Where do I go? Yeah. Okay. So here's some things you want to consider when you're picking out your serverless provider. You want to make sure that you're avoiding vendor lock-in. So a lot of times what happens if you go to a vendor is you will be stuck there. It's hard to even get out. If you're using one of their services, it doesn't communicate outside of that vendor because they don't want you to leave. That can make it difficult to scale, or if you want to be using, like if I want to use Azure functions with the GCP machine learning stuff and an AWS speech recognition model, that becomes extremely difficult. So you want to pick something that avoids lock-in. You want something that works with a broad set of services. So a lot of times you're integrating with other services outside of that. Great. And as a developer, I want it to be easy to use, baby. Come on, don't make it too hard on me, right? Let's just like help make it easy. We're developers, we're smart, we can read the documentation, but I don't want it to be harder than it needs to be. I don't think anyone does. Kubernetes is great. I don't understand it at all. It's really confusing. It makes it hard for me to learn. I think maybe y'all are much smarter than me, but it's trying our best here. We want it to be easy though. Okay. So obviously I might be a tiny bit biased here, but did you know MongoDB has a serverless option? It's called Realm. It's actually really cool, and it's a great option, and it does all of these things perfectly well. Again, I'm biased, but whatever, right? So let's jump into some stuff here. So we have some stuff here with MongoDB Realm. You can do query anywhere. So basically, you can make MongoDB queries on the front end in a static front end or React application, right? You have functions, so you can write your own code in the cloud to do anything you want. You can do triggers based on your data. So if some sort of data changes in my MongoDB database, I have a serverless function that automatically does something, executes some code. And then mobile sync. So it automatically syncs with any mobile devices, mobile apps, or static front ends, which is super cool. Okay, awesome. So we talked about what serverless is, why it's great, why it sucks, and what you should be looking for when you pick a serverless provider. So let's jump into some real code here. Okay. So this is my app I built. And again, link is in that code, that little QR code. I'll be posting it in a little bit here if you want to check that out. But did this work at all? I'm trying a different video thing here in it. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. So I have I wrote a React-based serverless application. It's a static front end, and I'm using MongoDB Realm serverless on the back end. Yeah, looks like it paused. Whatever. Okay, we'll go. Oh, it's not going. Who knows? Whatever. Anyway, this is the app architecture. So we have a React journal application. Basically, all it does is it saves some journal entries. You can have multiple users as authentication. And it also integrates with AWS's SES, or simple email service. So it does automatic email updates if you post a new journal of someone you're following, or it gets shared with it, right? So we just have like email notifications built in, but it's all serverless. There's no backend that I'm managing, all automatically scaled up in the cloud. And how this works is all the data is being saved, obviously, in a MongoDB database, and we're taking use of triggers, functions, and services. So we're going to go kind of over the core tenets of different functions in serverless using this model. Cool. Great. So first thing we want to do is connect our React application up to our service provider, right? This is a React conference. I assume you guys have all heard of React. So we have a static front end. Actually, I built this app using create React app, right? So you can just build a serverless or a static front end using create React app. But I want to get my static React application hooked up to my service provider, which is MongoDB Realm. So the first thing we need to do is obviously create a brand new cluster. Oh man, none of these videos are working. No. Oh no. Well, whatever. It's fine. We'll just skip it. What that means is you have to create a cluster. Basically, with MongoDB Atlas, you can create a database in the cloud. It's self-managed for you. You can still, the community edition is and always will be free for you, right? But if you want an easier way to do it, there's a free tier on Atlas too. I'm gonna have free codes for it at the end. It's super great though. But all you do is spin up a new cluster in Atlas. It's our cloud base or a database as a service to the cloud. And then we need to connect up our MongoDB Realm app with the SDK. So actually there is an NPM package. And it's called MongoDB Stitch Browser SDK. And this allows us to make MongoDB queries from the front end. You don't have to be on a Node application anymore to make queries to a database. Isn't this incredible? Am I blowing your mind? I'm making queries to a MongoDB database on a static front end with no server. What? That's incredible. I'm blowing my own mind here, okay? So all we're doing is instantiating that brand new MongoDB Stitch SDK, and we're wrapping our applications. If you're used to Redux, you've probably seen this before, right? We're just going to wrap our application around it. Okay, so authentication. I'm going to go fast to this just because it's like authentications, let me be very clear, is very important. It's just very boring for conferences. I love security talks because they sound so sexy, but it's the most boring subject in the world. I'm so sorry. Authentication is boring, but we'll cover it here. So for this app, we're using simple email password. We have lots of different authentication strategies for your application. But you can authenticate with like Google and Twitter, a bunch of other things too, and GitHub, but we're just going to do our own email-based thing here. Oh boy, none of these things are working. It's fine. I'm just going to say we did it. It like goes for a second and it stops. Whatever. Conference struggles. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Okay. Whatever. I'm just going to say we hooked up our database. Then we have our browser SDK. But now let's go and actually query some data. And great. So this is going to look familiar to all your React nerds out there. But we have our React class app, right? This is like the kind of the super class that kind of contains everything. But we have our browser SDK, and we have our journal pages that's actually being displayed on the DOM. Cool. So we're going to instantiate a brand new client that's going to be basically the connector to our database or to our serverless backend, which is fine, right? So we just say like, go get this thing, and we're going to go connect up to our cloud serverless provider, which is Atlas and Realm. And then we just render a page. Cool. Okay, but here's the fun part. We actually like look at the journal pages that actually displays the data. So if you notice here, oh, I wish I had circled this. Oh no, I can't. So here you can see that lists of entries. We just go to MongoDB and we go to our database, which are journal, and we have our collection called entries. Cool, right? Just like you would with on the MongoDB REPL or on a server, right? Cool. So we're accessing MongoDB on a static front end via serverless tech in React. Hello! And we can initialize that current state. Next thing we want to do is just go get all the entries. So we're actually just using MongoDB query language, MQL, right? And yes, we do. I'm using an await. Const entries equals await this dot entries that find. I'm just going to pull up everything. and then we convert that into an array because we're getting that as JSON. Awesome. That's all just MQL. We're using MQL in the front end. Amazing. And we set that state. And then we just map over and list all the journal entries. Cool. So that stuff is at the bottom, probably used to it. But I just want to show you how easy it is to query and get data from the front end using a serverless provider. All I did was I set up a new database in the cloud. I connected it using a NPM package. And then I just make a query using MQL, which I already know to use because I've been using it on the back end for years, right? Now I don't need a back end, or the back end is being abstracted away into a serverless provider. Woo! Okay. I went too far. Okay, add entry. So we went through querying, just getting data, but now we want to post data to our database. Same thing, right? We're just constructing an object in memory called new entry, and then we just do an insert one into our data or our collection. That's it, right? And it's so easy because in MongoDB, you don't have to convert that data. We have an object we're working with in memory, which we're already used to using because React State is an object. And then we just can insert one of that object into memory whenever we need to, right? Super easy. And we just update state, remove it the same way. We're just doing a delete one based on the ID. Come on. Come on. How easy is this? How easy is this? How hard would this be if I had to set up a server and a backend, or if I was using like an RDBMS and I have to like run migrations and updates and settle this? You don't have to do that anymore. This took me like 3 hours to make this app. It's so fast. And I'm just getting started here, right? These are just the CRUD operations. Cool. Let's get to some fun stuff. Updates, great. Rules. Okay. Let's see how much time I have left here. I got about 20 minutes left here. I may finish up a little early. Reminder, if anyone has any questions, I'm keeping an eye on the YouTube chat channel right now. Feel free to just reach out. If anything's confusing or weird, or I want to go over it again, please just let me know. I'm here for you. I love all y'all so much. All right, rules. So, okay. Let's assume we have a MongoDB database. We have a serverless front end now. We can make CRUD operations to it. But you're a pretty standard application, and you actually don't want everyone to have access to every bit of data in your database. What do we do here? So, for example, we're making a journal app, which you guys have not seen yet because my videos do not work. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that users can only see their journal entries unless they are explicitly shared with them, which we do in the UI. We want to enforce document schemas. So it is a myth, y'all, that MongoDB is a schemaless database. Did you know? Hey, two things. One, we're actually a flexible schema database. You can enforce a schema from a database level. You don't need Mongoose for it. At a database level, you can enforce how flexible you want your schema to be. Another thing, did you know MongoDB is actually ACID compliant now? As of version 4.2, you can run an update, get, post, put, delete all in a row, and you can make that one single transaction. Did you know that? Not many people knew that. But now all y'all know that. All y'all know that. Okay, right. Okay, well, is this video going to work? I'm guessing not. You can enforce rules, though. So you can enforce that. Oh, boy. Is it going? No. It freezes every time. I don't get it. Okay. Another thing. So we also integrate with other services. So AWS, GitHub, Twilio, or just HTTP requests of any kind. You can do anything you can do with an HTTP request in Postman, you can totally do in a serverless provider. I mentioned earlier, we have an email client set up with AWS's simple email service that can email someone when a journal entry gets shared with them. And it's super easy. This is our service. All you have to do is basically add AWS. You click the simple email service. You put an API key in from AWS. We give you a little template. It's super easy to fill out, though. Okay, none of these videos are working. Triggers. Okay, whatever. I'm going to just skip through the rest of the stuff here. I do want to get to logs, though. So with serverless, I find that the hardest part about a serverless app is, in fact, auditing your application. So if you control the backend, it's much easier to troubleshoot and any potential issues on your backend. And since you're not in charge of that infrastructure anymore, the only way to do that is through logs. So every good serverless provider is going to have a Stitch log, or like a log for you to look through, right? Because that's how the way you have to troubleshoot it. Yeah, I'm not going to show you that, but whatever. Realm has it. Okay. Everyone, I wish these videos worked. It makes much more sense. Just like, trust me, that goes. This one works. What's up with this one? Am I pointing at it here? There it is. This one works. I don't get it. I don't know why the other ones didn't. Okay. This is the fun part, though. I'm going to make wild speculations about the future of serverless. Hold on to your butts, everybody. Here we go. What's next? Well, my personal opinion on this is, in fact, that I think, as from a developer perspective, I think we're going to continue to see massive abstraction on the rise. I think as cloud providers get bigger, more powerful, and easier to integrate with, it's going to mean that they're going to handle more of the workloads for us. We're already seeing them doing a massive amount of this work. Serverless is a key that they're going to be doing even more in the future. I'm going to say that again. Cloud providers are going to be doing more of your DevOps and infrastructure work for you. I don't think that trend is going anywhere soon. I think serverless is just the tip of the iceberg. I think it's in so many ways. I'm going to go into this sec after I finish this, but there's going to be more services. Like MongoDB just came out with our serverless option, right? It sits right on top of it. If you're using MongoDB Atlas, you click a button, boom, all this works. Just out of the box. Which, by the way, our Realm option now includes a GraphQL endpoint. So if you have MongoDB database in Atlas, you click a button, it automatically generates a GraphQL endpoint with all of your queries and mutations enabled out of the box. Because we know the structure of data, it's JSON, we just replicate that on the front end and it automatically gets generated for you. What? It's incredible. Y'all have no idea how awesome that is. Okay, we acquired Realm recently, which means that we're doing this now with mobile devices too. So the idea is we want to make working with your data super easy, right? So like we host your data, we manage all that server, like all the database scaling and performance and indexing, all that stuff for you. But also you as a developer, we want to make it easier for you to use that data as well. Oh, and apps are just going to get cheaper. I bet that's true. Duh. Okay, let's see here. I also just want to make bold claims, too, about database in general. So I work for MongoDB. Duh, right? I've said that a million times. But what MongoDB is doing, we're starting to use machine learning models on your data to help make managing your database easier. I'm also seeing, like, we're going to start seeing cloud or, like, AI-computed or AI-assisted infrastructure modeling, right? Like, so for example, with MongoDB, if we see that you're making lots of the same queries over and over again that aren't indexed, we'll make a recommendation that maybe you should start indexing that and show you what that would look like, run some tests for you, right? Like we can automatically, or if you like need to scale up automatically, we can do that for you, or scale down, we can do that for you, right? Because I know as a developer, I don't really care about the nitty-gritty details about how my stuff is handled in the cloud. I just want to put my data somewhere and get it out, and I don't really want to worry about it. I want it to be easy to deal with. And same with my infrastructure. I just want to deploy my stuff, and I just want it to work, and I just want to move on with my life. I think that's going to get easier and easier and easier in the future. Yeah, it's going to. AI-assisted infrastructure, definitely going to happen. Okay, yes, Stitch. Is this, so MongoDB, or Realm, excuse me. Is it free? Yes, we have a free tier. First 25 gigabytes of data transfer per month is free. That's a lot of data. I've never gone over the free tier. Don't tell anyone. Do you have to use the online GUI? No, we have a command line client, and I actually recommend using it. It's super great. So you can use your favorite IDE. I use Visual Studio Code for developing your serverless application. Great. Okay, so let's do a quick recap here, and then I'm going to get the heck out of here. Again, if you have any questions for me, let me know in the chat right now. But first thing we did. Intro to serverless. We talked about why is it so cool? You don't have to worry about infrastructure anymore. You don't have to provision anything. You don't have to scale anything. You don't have to patch anything. You don't have to do capacity planning. You don't have to blah, blah, blah. There's so many things, right? It's makes managing your application way easier and way cheaper, right? What's the catch? Servers might need to be warmed up. So if you're hitting with unexpected traffic, this first couple of hits can take a while as those new servers are being managed behind the scenes for you automatically. State must be external because all of your state instances are being set up and taken down without your control. So you have to manage state elsewhere, which is where database comes in. Great. And you still have to worry about DevOps. If you have an application you're considering going serverless, I would totally recommend that. If you have a occasional, or if you have a static front end, use it. Use it. It's going to make your life so much easier. Just trust me. And you have to have some data that hits on the back end. Variable traffic levels. We talked about the HQ app, right? Like if you have something that's only being used massively part of the time, definitely want to consider using a serverless infrastructure. Because you want to pay for all the uptime if you're not using it, baby. Save some money. If you need additional compute power without extending, so if you have a current system, you don't want to, it's maxed out, or you want like additional flexibility with it, consider a serverless system to be used only when you need it, right? Again, don't pay for all the time if you don't need it, baby. And anyway, just things you want cheaper. Easy. MongoDB Stitch is great, and I would totally consider using it, especially if you're a MongoDB fan. Definitely, 100%. If you're using it as your data choice of backend, like we just make it so easy to work with that data. You want to avoid vendor lock-in. So a lot of times, cloud providers will keep you trapped into their ecosystem and won't allow you to go out. MongoDB is different. Like we can go, we don't care where you go. You can also host it anywhere you want too. Like, it's amazing. It's so great. We want it to be easy to use. Okay, then we did a guided serverless demo, which none of y'all saw because the videos didn't work. And I'm so sorry. Trust me, it worked. I'm going to show you the code here in a little bit. But we had our MongoDB Stitch app, React static front end, integrated with AWS, and use a MongoDB database on the back end, Atlas. Okay, cool. And last, we talked about the future of the serverless. We're going to continue to see a massive amount of abstraction on the rise. We're going to see much more serverless options coming out from a bunch of different providers. MongoDB Realm is amazing. You should definitely check that out. And it makes everything really cheap. Oh, and we talked about AI is going to help assisting making data and infrastructure easier to manage and scale. Okay, so what's next? If you are inspired at all today to learn serverless, what I want you to do is just get out there and dang do it. Watching a talk is a great way to determine whether or not you want to learn a new piece of tech. And if this is all but you're not going to learn it. I don't expect anyone here to know how to make a piece of serverless tech, but I'd recommend what you do. So I'm gonna show you a link to that site that I did. I would recommend setting that up on your own and playing around with it. And then also, next time you build an application, try building with the serverless backend. It's the best way to learn a new piece of tech is to do it. I'll give you the steps to do it, but you got to go out and you have to do it. That's the way. That's how you can grok these things, right? And great, if you want $100 in free Atlas credits, you can use JoeK100. I've never gone over the free tier, but if you do, you got a little buffer zone. Okay. Source code. Yes, that's the source code there. I'm gonna pull up. Let's see here. I'm gonna actually try to show this here. GitHub. Joe Karlsson. Okay, great. And I'm gonna pull it because I do have my I have this deployed, so I can even show it to you. Yes. Yeah. I don't know what happened here. Close that. Great. And pull this over here. Okay, cool. So I have the, actually, I'll just post it on YouTube right now. But, oh, no, that's the wrong one. Let's see here. Stitch workshop exercise. This one, y'all. This is the one. Not the last one. Okay, great. yeah, this is where all the code is on here. So if you want to check that out, it's super easy to use. Great. It's fully documented too. There's a little PDF that walks you through all of it too. But it shows you how to do the journal entry. Boy, this isn't even going in either. That's so weird. Maybe it's just my browser's all weird right now. Anyway, let's wrap this up. I don't see any questions in the chat. But again, my name is Joe Karlsson. If you enjoyed this talk at all, great. I love you so much. I'd make funny jokes on the internet sometimes. You can hit me up on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, or my personal website. And if you want a link to any of the resources here in this talk, go to that bit.ly link or scan that little QR code in the upper right-hand corner. But thank you so much. I love all of you so much. This has been so much fun. And I will maybe see you soon.